It's true. Don't say anything different. Because that's we might all shop. All right, we will call our meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone. And a reminder to council to disclose any pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Hearing none. Approval of the agenda. Smokey and Todd. Any questions, comments? No additions. Lindsay, call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Minutes for May 26th. Mover and seconder of the minutes. I'm on. Rod? You're here. Todd? That's right. Any questions on the minutes? Call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. So we have a public meeting. And it's regarding some updates, amendments to our fees and charges bylaw. Just before we go to the public meeting, I'll just ask council if they have any questions regarding the fees and charges. If not, it is a public meeting, so we will open the public meeting. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on the amendments to the fees and charges bylaw? And they are mainly to do with Tobermory Sewer. Lineshead Water was mentioned, but no increases this year. Next year proposing. Cemetery. And I believe there's a couple others in there too. I just don't have it. Just a second. Arena, that's right, Todd. Yeah. Yeah. Are there any members online, Lindsay?
Members of the public who have joined the public meeting via Zoom and would like to provide comments, please raise your hand. What comments, Mayor McIver?
Hi. Yeah, so these were just a few amendments that basically resulted, most of them as a result of our consultant that we had look at our water and sewer rates and to see if they were adequate to accommodate future capital costs. So if there's no one commenting, we will close the public meeting. And so the recommendation is there, and we'll consider passage of a bylaw on June the 23rd, next council meeting. So recommendation, we're seconded for the recommendation, Todd and Smokey. Any questions, comments? Call a vote, all in favor. Opposed, the motion is carried. Next, we have delegations. We have two delegations. First delegation is Dylan Earl regarding 25 Simpson Ave. And that is the subdivision proposal on that property and zoning amendment. Oh, there you go. Okay. Welcome, Dylan. So I don't know your report has been circulated to council. If you want to go, you have 15 minutes. So if you want to go through it all, or if you want to highlight some things, that's whatever you like.
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Dylan. I am a part owner and applicant for this file, the subdivision on 25 Simpson. I want to thank you all for your time and allowing me to speak to this. It's been quite the process and a lot of careful consideration on your end, my end, everybody's contributions. It's been quite a process. I came up from Niagara today. What a beautiful drive. So happy to be here. Just want to go over some high level things with regard to this file. I came up to Tobermory about 6 years ago with my sister, fell in love with the area. And we saw this property for sale and we picked it up. We went through the process from the beginning, consulted with the planning department, Jack Van Dorp, identified what we had to do to make it usable or define what's unusable. Went through that process and didn't know anybody up here, so I had the opportunity to meet some wonderful local consultants and professionals, our environmental team, archaeological, planning, engineering, everything in between. So after 6 years and lots of costs and time and effort, we've come up with the final design. We're all familiar with it. I've been on the online calls, so I appreciate your guys' comments and concerns. I think you guys are rightfully so to be very methodical and careful with any type of decision, especially this. I've learned a lot, and I thought the least I can do is come up here and just go over some high-level stuff. So I put a short presentation together. It's not as much about the subdivision, but more so about what you're deciding today. So my file is 6D in the agenda. And it's essentially whether you're going to accept the planning recommendation report or not. In terms of the actual subdivision, we've gone through all the hoops, and we've found a good balance for this site, between environmental, economy, social. That balance is hard to strike, and I believe through our many iterations over the 6 years, we've landed at something that's very reasonable, and the planning department agrees, along with respective peer reviewers, consultants. Again, I worked with all local people. They know the place better than I do. So I think we're very satisfied with that. So for the presentation, can I just say next or? Yeah, okay, so let's go next slide. I just basically broke it down, when making a decision, there's a couple things to consider. What are we deciding? What choices do we have? What do we need to know? What consequences do we care about? Is it reasonable? And what's the commitment to follow through? I want to demonstrate that these are all questions that go through my head anytime I work on a property, and obviously must go through your heads as well. So next slide. So what are we deciding? You're deciding whether you will accept the planning staff recommendation report, which is to approve the rezoning and subdivision. This covers everything from environmental, engineering, coastal, archaeological, planning, wildfire risks, and planning policies. Next. So the choices are you either accept it or you don't. In the event that you accept it, I'll go through the follow through afterwards, but the alternative is if you disagree, then ultimately it proceeds through the Ontario Land Tribunal through an appeal, which would ultimately be against the county planning recommendation report and the local consultant studies. Again, we've done tons of work, so we've really put a lot of effort into it, so it's pretty bulked up, tons of pages, and we're pretty confident in all the findings. Next. I won't go through all this in detail, but what do we need to know? I've gone through this a lot. We're proposing 7 lots. There's no new roads to be constructed. We're rezoning. We're putting in protections that aren't there today, expanding that no development, no site alteration area. Public meeting was held. We've done tons of technical stuff, and consultants, peer reviews, and staff agree approval. Next. There's a pestle analysis. So, everything from political, economical, social, technological doesn't quite apply, but it's there, legal and environmental. Again, we've gone over all these aspects. Again, I'm just trying to demonstrate the amount of detail that from my end, we've gone through to make sure that everything is balanced and respected. Next. So ultimately, the consequences, apart from the stuff that we've already mitigated, is, do you oppose the planning staff recommendation? And what are those costs associated with an appeal process? I don't want to go through that process. I'd imagine you don't. I understand you got to evaluate your decision, but this is just something we have to keep in mind. Next. So is this reasonable? Of course, my opinion is yes. In terms of the context, we're not in the middle of nowhere. We're in an area surrounded by municipally maintained roads. It's built up. There's existing access. We're supported by staff. We believe it's practical. My consultants and the planning all determine density per hectare aligns with the area, et cetera, et cetera. And, after 6 years, we've concluded no negative impacts through this balanced approach. Next. Here's another example. I believe someone had brought up at a previous discussion, that density and the lot sizes. Just for reference here on the screen, just north of us, there's 14 lots over 6.5. Here we are today in blue, 7 lots over 13. I think we're getting better at, respecting boundaries and sizing. And this just goes to show that we're putting a valid effort towards that. Next. So commitment to follow through. This is the bulk of our project. Typically, when you have a lot and you apply for a building permit, the process is pretty straightforward. In my context, we had to go through the Planning Act. That opened up so many doors. We just had to roll with the punches and conform to everything imposed on us. So between subdivision agreement, site plan control, rezoning, pre-approvals, making sure we get clearance letters from every professional under the sun, we have to get it in order to finalize this. This isn't just a, slide in an application and hope it gets approved. We've put a lot of work and time and money into it, and we want to make sure you guys know how important it is to us as well to make sure that these things are cleared. Next. Here's an example. I know environmental and setback from the water, et cetera, was emphasized as a concern on our plans. I know there's a lot going on them, but there is fencing proposed with placards. It doesn't matter if it's a property with a water or a parking lot. In terms of enforcement, someone who's driven to commit a crime is going to commit a crime. So how do you deter that? Just like a security system, you put in as much as you can. We believe that with this fencing, it's going to be better than what's there today, which is nothing. We're going to have placards, and that's going to be reinforced by the new proposed bylaw that also says no site alterations, etc. Neighbors are a great resource, and I know if people have concerns, they'll call. So we're confident that this will be better than what's there today. Next. Furthermore, trees, while trees aren't the only aspect of environment, they are obviously a major concern. We've gone through a lot of hard work to make sure the tree preservation makes sense while balancing wildfire risk. The Bruce County Forest Conservation Bylaw is in effect. There's a charge per tree, so it really decentivizes people to destroy trees, and there's a mechanism in place to charge people. All we can do is really reinforce those penalties, and that's the commitment to ensuring protections. Next. This is just a snippet from the recommendation report and the conditions that we need those clearances through and through. Next. I heard fait accompli. That really stuck with me. I had to look it up, to be honest, and it means a thing that has happened, leaving no option but to accept it. That might be a little bit narrowed down, but I believe that throughout this whole process over the 6 years, we've really put an effort in, and I don't want you to feel like it's just something you have to accept. We've worked with Peggy and Troy and the peer reviewers and everyone to mold this into something that's acceptable. Again, the main point here is that the recommendation report is to approve. So next slide. I think this is more of a fait mérité, which is a deserved or well-earned outcome, emphasizing merit and effort rather than inevitability. I don't want you to feel like this is inevitable. This is something we've worked at, and I think it strikes a fair balance for the site. Next. So in conclusion, I hope you'll consider accepting the planning staff recommendation, which is to approve the rezoning subdivision. And next. And that is all. Thank you for your time.
Any question next moment regarding the presentation?
Oh, well, I just have a couple of comments. Your comparison with, the other area on Simpson Ave, is comparing solid rock with marsh wetland. It's, two totally different animals, I realize, and in the actual waterfront area. So I'm sure you're aware of that. It is not, apples and apples. And the other, I think if you review, there's a couple of us have had, because we're very familiar with this and love that little harbor. You come in, but is the onus that's on, like, I see all the mitigation to your credit that you have put in place. But we've dealt with for the last 6 years, dealing with STAs and people. And if even a couple of these sites become STAs, I really worry that the onus is on the municipality to do this policing that you speak to. So that is also a factor here, not just getting it through, but in this job, we really have to look down the road. That's everything we do. We can't decide, oh, we did this, this, and this. And if you've been in this community for a long time, you learn to look down the road, because you can't mitigate everything, but there's some things you can see coming and that I'm going to say has been a lot of my concern, especially recently, is this idea that the municipality is taking on this burden of policing that area. And that's my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Smokey. You want to respond to Dylan?
Sure. Through the mayor to the council member, definitely understand that concern. In terms of the marsh, our proposal is from water's edge, so the marsh is going to be water side of that edge. Our construction or proposed areas of construction are minimum 100 feet from that edge, so we're not building in marsh. We're not close to marsh, especially compared to our neighbors who are literally adjacent left and right. They're constructed adjacent to the marsh. Some have actually put protruded armor stone in. Anyway, we're taking I think a fair approach to it, but I definitely respect that consideration. And then the second thing is the STAs. Our intention is to subdivide the land and give builders or homeowners an opportunity to build whatever house they want to build. I understand short-term rentals are permitted here. It's not something I would personally do. But in terms of whether it's permitted or not, I can't control that. That's the municipality's purview. But definitely a concern. I would imagine there's a licensing process and that would be regulated to an extent. So hopefully that's enough.
In most cases, not all by any means. Thank you for your response.
Any other comments? Rod?
Yes, I guess I've got a couple of concerns, and then one of them was density, although you do say it's 1.2 units per hectare. And I hearken back to a subdivision that went in on the west side of Hay Bay 30 years ago that had basically 1 unit per half hectare. And then at that time, this was St. Edmunds Township, we turned it down. Subsequent to that, it went from 60 lots to 30 lots, and then 1 unit per little over hectare when it was done. And again, a totally different sort of building envelope, and then it was hard rock, it wasn't marsh, it didn't have anything flowing through it in terms of streams and things like that. That being said, anything can be done. I guess you could probably put a house on a footprint 10 feet bigger than the house footprint, right? Because there are ways around dealing with sewage and water, but that's not what we want. And I guess I'm sort of lining up with Smokey here in that your intentions are good and your whole thing is well thought out and sort of I think you've ticked every box and made sure that you're sort of within the parameters of what you can do. my concern, and I guess Smokey's too, and maybe somebody else's is, once those lots are sold, there we are dealing with something. It's hard to tell somebody you've bought this lot and you can't do what you want to do with it. Because I can see someone coming down there and saying, beautiful lot, we'll push a path down here, we'll put the dock in, blah, blah, blah. And that happens without any input from us. We learn about it later. So that's my second sort of hesitation. And I guess my third thought, nothing to do with you directly, is we seem to be a bit at odds with Bruce County planning in that we don't seem to get our oar in the water soon enough. And these things come ahead and there we are sort of playing catch up. And whose fault is that? Good question. I mean, maybe we should be a little more on the ball. Maybe Bruce County should be bouncing these things off earlier, off council. Again, that's not on you. It's between us and the county. But just a thought that I had. So thank you.
Yes, Bill.
Through the mayor to the council member. Yeah, thank you for those comments. You know, it's how do you control someone putting path and putting a dock and et cetera, et cetera? How do you stop a criminal or someone from parking in a parking space without parking? You know, I get it. You know, the site exists today. These are all actions we could do today. After this bylaw goes in, there would be issues. Whereas today there would not be issues. Like as the property owner today, I could build a dock down there and it would be permitted under the zoning. Whereas with our new zoning, no site alterations, no development, that's more wording than what's in the current environmental hazard zoning. So I get it, but I hope you can view this as an improvement to what's there today in terms of enforceability and administration. But I definitely hear your concerns, and I am confident that we'll be fine, especially with fencing. You know, it's hard to get equipment past fencing. Again, we're going to get clearance letters and inspections by the municipality. Yeah, I think that's all I can contribute.
Thank you, Bill. Yes.
Yeah, just a question on that. I guess when it comes time to sell the lots, how forceful will you be in convincing people that these are the rules and we want you to stick by them?
But yeah, whether that's through a purchase and sale agreement, site plan control, subdivision agreement, you know, these are administrative things that will be registered on the property. People have to be made aware of that. Physically, there'll be a sign there. You know, they can't remove it. If they do, you know, a neighbor's going to call. Like I'm sure everyone that lives near us is going to know what's going on. It's not like this is just slipping it under the radar. We're taking the correct approach. And yeah, I think that's the best way to be, in fact.
All right. So that's the delegation, and if there's no further questions. Thank you, Dylan, on behalf of council and staff.
Thank you very much.
Next delegation is Steve Levack, and it's for 2 Front Street. Welcome, Steve.
So I want to start out by saying that I'm really not used to speaking in public and I'm quite nervous sitting here. It was through Alex's encouragement that I have come today in front of council. I wrote and rewrote comments. This is actually version number 5, so I hope that speaking from the heart is appropriate in the circumstances. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of council, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I also want to thank staff for their guidance throughout this process. Even when the path has been complex, their efforts to engage have been truly appreciated. I think we can all agree that the beautiful Bruce Peninsula is a very special place. Because of that, I know that even simple changes deserve close scrutiny. I respect that and I welcome it. And I've tried to meet that scrutiny in this process with good faith, transparency, and a willingness to listen, understand, and adapt. Council voted to approve this zoning amendment. Again, thank you for that vote. Today is about completing that process through the second and third readings and allowing staff to carry forward the next steps. It's my understanding staff have recommended that council receive the draft site plan agreement for information, a step that reinforces the role of staff in guiding the implementation. This approach helps maintain a consistent and thoughtful planning process and avoids introductions from the floor that may not have the benefit of a full technical review. The zoning change confirms what is allowed. The site plan agreement developed with staff is where we define how it happens, responsibly and with care. I believe in the site planning process and have agreed to, among other things, place limits on occupancy, control access, manage noise, and ensure that necessary infrastructure is in place. These items are not just about compliance. They're about being a good neighbor. And to be clear, this process is not a request for more. Rather, it's a commitment to do better, to place limits. Oh, there we go. To place limits where currently they do not exist, to adopt structure where currently there is none, and to codify what it means to extend courtesy. So, what does it mean to be a good neighbor? I believe it's a choice. And I believe that it's one that most of us, though maybe not all, make every day. It's showing up for one another, communicating to work things out when issues arise, and putting the community of personal grievance. That's what I've tried to do every step of the way. I've listened to the public concerns. I've answered every call from staff. I've followed every process. I've made compromises. I've reworked plans, planted and replanted trees. I've paid for studies, surveys, engineering, and revised designs. Not because I was forced to, but truly because I wanted to get this right. See, I've been told that some define neighborliness as the act of living side by side. But I define it differently. I think it's not about location, but rather how we treat one another. That's how our forefathers built the peninsula, regardless of shared lot lines, through hard work, cooperation, shared values, and caring for one another. And that's how I hope we can move forward. Now, I grew up learning what it means to be a neighbor the same way many of you probably did. Not through bylaws and site plans, but through moments. Moments like the time that I leapt from the bow of the speeding boat, my uncle racing across Cameron Lake at 40 miles an hour, into a runaway tinny that was spinning round and round, dangerously out of control. Its driver having fallen into the water. Uncle Bob's words, on the next revolution, you jump. Still gives me chills today, I can hear it in my voice. Why, you might say, would anybody do that? To stop a disaster before it struck. No one asked us to. It's just the right thing to do. That's what neighborliness looks like to me. I've delivered meals, I've fixed roofs, I've shared tools, I've installed docks and taken out water lines. I've given rides to Port Elgin and picked up packages in Owen Sound. I often stop to pick up the roadside trash. I've rescued canoes and towed back rafts whose anchors have let loose. And yes, I even received calls from neighbors when a storm blew my door open and filled my property with snow to let me know that they had resecured that door. To me, this defines community north of the checkerboard. And while we can't legislate that spirit, we can protect the kind of policies that encourage it. It can be easy to lose perspective in a long, drawn-out process like this. So let me try to share some real-world terms, if I may. Commenting bodies have raised zero concerns about the residential use of the home or its short-term rental. Those guests' use of the waterfront. For the proposed park, the number of guests expected to be there at any one time is similarly almost negligible. Let me explain. In the hospitality industry, Patio setting is designed knowing that on average, only 25% of total guests will be there at any one moment. Think about it. That's why if you've ever stayed at a hotel that's got 500 people in it, the lobby's small, the bar is small, the patios are small. People don't show up at the same time. So with the maximum occupancy at the Bull Bay being 56, that means our park on average would have 14 people or less, because rarely are hotels at capacity. And the number of guests will frequently be much lower than 14. In fact, and in truth, it's often going to be nobody at all. During a particularly good sunset or other special moment, there might briefly be a few more, but truly the number is small. I might guess that many of your family dinners have more people. Recognize too that this is not a new destination attraction. This is not bringing new people to town. It's not open to the public. These are my private guests, people who are already in town, already walking around downtown, already visiting the waterfront. They have parking at the hotel and a beautiful washroom in their room. What this proposal does is give these limited few guests a waterfront place to sit and take in the view, which actually reduces the pressure on municipal places like the Gap and on my neighbors at the ferry dock. By relieving pressure at these places, we actually improve the experience for everybody in town. It's thoughtful, it's managed, and it's built on good hospitality practices and solid municipal planning principles. Its footprint is very, very small. It's planted now over 136 trees and counting. We have restored landscape features, not removed them. We've looked for every way to naturally add beauty and privacy without burden to others, in line with the stated vision of our community to protect our culture, social, and natural environment. Where others might dig ditches, we've built berms. Where others might cut down trees, we've planted them. Where others might spread gravel, we've built gardens. Where others might exploit encroachments, we've respected observance. Where others might make demands, we seek to understand. These are all choices. For nearly 2 decades, the Blue Bay Motel has been recognized as the #1 hospitality provider in the area. You can't get this by advertising. The experience that we've provided thousands of visitors and the feedback that they voluntarily shared, that's how we built our reputation, not through shortcuts. It was earned through care, consistency, and community trust. These same principles are guiding this application and will continue to guide the operation of the property. The proposal aligns with zoning objectives, and accordingly, you have voted to enact the bylaw. Again, thank you. Staff are recommending today that council receive the draft site plan agreement for information and approve the final readings of the bylaw. This is a responsible path forward. It moves us into the implementation stage with zoning now resolved and the details ready to be refined by staff, as you have given them the power to do. It also prevents the possibility of a dangerous precedent where a single voice could redefine a process through sheer volume and persistence alone. This isn't about one file. It's about how together we govern through trust in staff and evidence, the principles of planning, and in conformity of law. Council, I'm asking you to accept staff's recommendation. Resist the urge to adjust the path at the final step. Let staff, the team you've empowered, bring this agreement to a close using professionalism and perspective they've demonstrated throughout. And let all of us return to the kind of neighborly cooperation that makes the Northern Bruce Peninsula such a special place. Because when we avoid hostility, we simply get more of it, more big city bullies. But when we avoid collaboration, we get progress and a community built on mutual respect. Do not allow policy to be shaped by the few who refuse to be satisfied. Choose instead to build policy around the stated and shared values of this community. My ask is simple. of the bylaw, let staff continue the site plan process unhindered. Trust in the work they've already done. And together, let's improve our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Steve. Any questions of Steve? Yes? Yep.
Steve, this isn't really a question. We've known each other for quite a while. You know, I say what I think and think what I say. But I'm going to call you a little bit on your speech about neighborless, and this is how you act and this is how you do things. The first time I visited the site, quite a long time ago, no one called me, no one complained. I just saw it on the agenda. So I went over and I walked in the laneway. And I knew what was happening, that you had proposed a so-called public park. And I saw a beautiful but very large walkway that immediately veered to the left and right practically down the lot line to the water, where this park where people would gather was immediately to the lot line of your neighbor. And this all happened without any permission from anybody. So I'm sorry, but in my neighborly, if someone did that to my new, like, limited, what we have on the water, my reaction, and I didn't know anybody at the time, you a little bit, but no, I not really, didn't know the neighbors at all, except for down the road, which are relatives. My first reaction when I go in and I see somebody has purposely put a laneway. You had a lot of property there to put that laneway down your own on, like, away from your neighbor, but it looked like you purposely chose to put that walkway, and this, if anybody's been there, it is a big, almost non-removable walkway right down your neighbor's line. That does not speak Bruce Peninsula neighbor to me, and I'm sorry. And it seems like we now, through this process, perhaps, we can, because by the looks of things, it is going to be approved. But I hope that you think about how you would feel, like you have, to me, being on council and representing people is basically putting yourself in someone else's position. I can have an immediate reaction, and I sure did when I saw that. Not really my first kick at the cat was, wow, if I was that person and I owned that lot and I knew this is where they were directing anybody that's going to go, right beside my property and right in front of my property with no effort to protect that, I would have been ticked off. And I just hope we see, like, you're talking the talk, but I hope in the future you're going to walk the walk, because your immediate, my first impact on how that, and I'm sorry, but it kind of set my mind on it, because, like, I wouldn't do that, and I would sure be mad if somebody else did that. So I just like to, and it's beautiful work. The company that did the work, and it's beautiful work, but it was done without any permission. And I don't think you can be surprised that the neighbors got upset about it. Like, so I guess I'm just looking for a response. Are we going to change that? Maybe we do need a fence, and that's why we've put this there, because any kind of traffic, and whether there's only this many, that many, or whatever, a property's precious and you pay a lot of money for it. And so I just think maybe at this point, we're just going to have to put up the fence, which is in the thing, and hope that there is that respect for whether you're, oh, I'm not going over the line, it's right there. Okay, there's a full foot here before this pathway, but I'm sorry, I have, as you know, been in favor of making sure, you know, that other people aren't subjected to, you know, things that they, and I think our site plan and our staff have worked hard and we've cooperated to make that happen, but that's my take on the situation.
Through the mayor to the councillor, thank you for your comments, Smokey. I appreciate your candid remarks. Yeah, I think that's awesome. You know, I think that I'm a very effective person, and I certainly have throughout this situation looked at what could I have done differently? How could I be a better person? That's just kind of ingrained in my personality. You know, through this situation, you know, I believed in the moment that I was doing the right thing. I introduced myself to the neighbor before any work began. Now they had only been present in the community for a couple of weeks at that time. So, you know, you could argue that maybe I should have gone sooner to them, but you know, we're kind of splitting on days here because they had really only been in the community. So I definitely went to them beforehand. Before work started, I shared my entire plan with them. Asked them if they wanted to together set the property line, which they did. We worked together that evening. The next day work commenced and I went back to check on the work and found out that there had been some concerns about the property line and they had spent some time resetting it out. So again, that evening I worked with the neighbor to lay it out a third time and have a distinct memory in that moment of asking him if he was happy at that point, and you know, he said yes. The next time I heard about the property line was 2 weeks later, when Wendy Elliott had been summoned to the site with concerns about the property line. At that time, concerns about the job being done, and it wasn't until she was there that the neighbor raised the concern about the property line. At that point, I offered to shut the job down and bring in someone to shoot the property line because I thought that that was the right thing to do. During that time period, the job was shut down for a little over a week. I brought in a construction survey technologist to shoot the property line and was told by the neighbor that his qualifications weren't good enough to do the work. This is a fellow who since that time is actually retired because that was the depth of his knowledge, and he's laid out everything from hospitals to highways. And so construction layout is exactly who was the right person, in my opinion, for the job.
I'm just going to stop you right there, Steve. The idea is not, okay, you respect it. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
Okay. And I'm not trying to, I guess you were looking to, I understood that you were looking for a better understanding of how I could be a better person. So we could do better in the future. And I think that's what you said. How could I do better in the future? So I'm trying to simply share the steps that I took along the way to that some of the story that you might not be aware of. To say that we did take some things, but
to get into this back and forth issue.
That's
I think we both made our point. You both
okay. All right.
You both have made your point.
Okay.
And so that's.
Thank you, Smokey. Yes, thank you. And thank you.
Any other questions regarding Steve's presentation? If not, thank you, Steve.
Thank you, everyone.
Next, we will go to the agenda, and it is for 2 Front Street. And it is the recommendation is there that council received the C25-15 site plan agreement, Blue Bay Motel, Levack 2 Front Street report as information, and that the bylaw be placed on the agenda. And it is further on down our agenda today. Mover and seconder for that. I'm on. Seconder Todd. Any further comments? Call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried. Item B on the agenda is NEC, and they're asking for comments. And it's an application at 1085 Dyers Bay Road. So staff have responded to that request with 4 different comments regarding the application. And it's regarding, the main one, of course, is that no washrooms, cooking, or sleeping accommodation be included in the new building, including the home office space, and compliant with the dark sky lighting. And that the boathouse and proposed deck meet the municipality's comprehensive zoning bylaw requirements for setbacks from the Dyers Bay Road and the side yards. And that the municipality supports the development application. Mover and seconder for that one. Smokey. And Rod? Any questions? Call a vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried. Item C on the agenda is another application, an NEC application, and staff are going to have to requesting comments, and it's 1555 Bruce Road 9 in South Bruce Peninsula, and I'm not sure why we have it. Yeah. Do we know why we have it? I don't know.
I think it was just because of the proximity to our municipal boundary. It's just the other side of Hope Bay.
Okay. All right. Yeah. We typically don't get them in neighboring municipalities, I don't think, but we will deal with this one. Mover and seconder for this one. Todd and Amon. Any questions? Call a vote. All in favor. No comment on this one. Next on the agenda is D, Jan Burnett, and it's the senior planner for Bruce County, and it's regarding the application at 35 Simpson, the subdivision that's being proposed there. So it has been demonstrated that the proposed applications are consistent with the Provincial Planning Statement 2024, the Bruce County Official Plan, and has regard for the municipality of Northern Bruce Peninsula zoning bylaw. And is recommended the council approve the zoning bylaw amendment Z 2023-010, and the necessary bylaw be placed on the agenda today. And council supports the conditions of draft approval for the subdivision. So, yeah, I guess I just have a comment on this one as well, and we have a process that we ask people to go through, and it is our county official plan and our zoning bylaw. And I think most people believe it's a complicated process, and one that takes a lot of time and money as well. And I think in this particular case here, I see where the applicant has gone through the process and provided several studies. And the studies have been peer reviewed, as I understand it. So having gone through that process, I do support the application. And I think the process is merited, though, in a situation like this. This is a delicate piece of property. So I think the process is definitely merited. Has merit. So I support the application and have no interest in going to the land tribunal. Is there a mover and seconder for this one? Amon? Seconder? Rod? Any questions or comments? Call. Yes, Rod.
So I'm just going to harken back to what I alluded to previously, was the fact that we seem. I know this had come through, and it's well documented and peer reviewed. Just somehow I think we're one step behind, or I realize it's been here before, and I was here for that. And at the time, I honestly didn't think it would go any farther than that day, and obviously it has. And I guess it preceded our council term here too, the initial development of it. So in a lot of respects, you lose any history, right, or any input from Bruce County on what's happening or what the proponent is thinking. So that being said, a vote against this is not so much a vote against the proposal as a vote against Bruce County planning, which we shouldn't really be doing, should we? Right, we sort of gotta, somehow, this will be a good learning process to keep ahead of these things, or somehow get us. I realize staff was all involved long before council. Ultimately, we're the last people to say yay or nay as council. We weren't the first ones in the game, so to speak. So it's kind of a conundrum, and I deep down don't really agree with the subdivision. I think it's too many lots, but it has been peer reviewed up the yin yang, hasn't it? I mean, there's certainly no shortage of input on it. So that's my conundrum. Yay or nay, and my nay vote would be I'm not saying I'm voting nay, but a nay vote would be a vote against our planning department.
Yeah, it is a vote against a planning report, and it is for us. I mean, it would mean that we would have to hire several consultants to prepare our reports, and then at the end of the day, I think it would probably be a bit of a tough road to trying to get. As I said, I think the process. Well, it's a 6-year process, so Rod, you're right. It predates let's turn the council, but that's the time it takes, and it a lot of people are reluctant to even start the process because of the money and time commitment. But and I get it. It's and in fact, some people think it's too rigorous a process that people have to go through. But this is the process that Bruce County adopted our official plan. We adopted our zoning bylaw. So this is what we're working with. And if we don't agree with them, then we have to really prove that we don't agree with them. Yeah. Yes.
Again, it'll be under duress, but I think Rod and I come from the same place. But we had a public meeting. There were a lot of people from that area, neighbors.
Yeah.
The two neighbors right there. In fact, the one lady told me if this goes ahead, she is immediately going to list her place for sale. Whether she does or not, I don't know. So the objections were definitely there, and I know I made my objection very clear. But again, when the peer review goes through, and I gather peer review is our staff.
No.
Who's peer review?
North South Environmental. No, it's the county hires them to do that. So
really, they work for the county. So if the county says this is our plan and it complies, then the peer review is basically the same. Let's say the same outfit. Anyway, I've said what I believe. I think we're on the same page, but I also realize we're in a position where it is not to our advantage to do anything further on this. Just does not feel right to me, but there's lots of things that don't feel right sometimes, but are necessary.
Just a comment. I do disagree with your comment with regards to the peer review. They peer review the consultants. Their consultants.
Okay, I
their
see.
Reports. And so it's yeah.
They don't peer review the actual county report.
Well, it is the county report, but it's being put forth by the consultant. His consultants put forth the report, and Bruce County gets their peer review of those reports. So yes,
I guess I'm just worried that a peer review, has to be by someone that's
Well,
familiar and takes the time to know the area, but I'm don't want to, I'm sure they know more about it than I do. Thank you.
all right, so the mover and second, we have a mover and second, Lindsay, for those. So,
Councillor Sorrell and Deputy Mayor.
right. All right, any further comments? Call the, yes, sorry, yeah.
I've sat here today and I haven't said anything, and I am reluctantly going to vote yes, but I'm going to make this noted. My problem with this whole plan is no negative impact. I find that hard to believe that that is going to happen. That's why I'm reluctantly saying yes today, because I know I can't say no. But we are saying that we need protective fencing installed for all the lots with placards reading environmental protection zone, no disturbances. SON has said recommended refusal of the application, but noted that should council approve the application, the following be implemented. Number one, Bruce County must apply a no shoreline development condition without exception on the approval. And I know I'm not saying no today, but I'm a reluctant yes, because I find it hard to imagine, or I'll pray that this never happens. And now the onus is on us to protect the shoreline from, we know the way people are, that inevitably something may happen down the road. So I'm just making my comments known today. And I agree with Councillor Anderson and Councillor Golden about we're kind of at the tail end of the process, which is rather unfortunate. That's it.
Okay. I guess from most places or subdivisions or proposals, they try to mitigate. And so that's a term that's used in every application, is mitigation. It's never no impact, because there is an impact, but it's mitigation. And as I said, that's a common term used in all planning applications. All right, we'll call the vote then. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Next on the agenda is the Public Works, and it's the annual performance report for the Pecuniary sewage treatment system. And that council directs staff to place a notice in the municipal ad and the Bruce Peninsula Press, indicating that the annual report is available for viewing on the municipal website. So mover and seconder for that one, Todd and Rod. Any questions on the report? Yes, Smokey? Yeah.
Sure, so if I'm on the right thing, I've kind of lost track of my brain. We're looking at the Pecuniary sewage treatment system. And it's quite a large report, but I had a question on one item, if I could. I don't see Troy here though, so, but maybe I'll put it on the floor and then someone can respond to it when this comes back. What I did notice is on one of the things that the BODs were really high in August. And I had to look that up, biologic oxygen demand, which means that there's not enough oxygen being in the system, so it's not working properly, and that there has to be some adjustments to make it work fine. And I'm just wondering why that, like, okay, so in August there was a little bit of more sewage put in, but not a great deal. But yet the BODs were 4 times what July was. So you had a slightly more intake, but the BODs from July to August were up 4 times. So that kind of makes me wonder, and it says that means wastewater is containing organic materials. So should we, and I'm sure like again, there's people that know a lot more about this. I just want to learn about it and know what's happening. And I mean, we have I know that we have good people looking after the lagoon and I have no concerns at all. But for my own personal information, I'd like to know what is happening in that August where we're seeing 4 times the BODs and what exactly do they do about that?
Okay, Peggy, do you answer for that?
So there's a few reasons why you would find an increase of BODs. Usually in the hot summer months, because you have a decrease in rain and water. There's an old saying of dilution's a solution. And so when you have more water, more oxygen in that water, your bugs are able to actually survive a little bit better. So when your sewage is coming in and there's not a lot of liquid with it, and you do get that with septic tanks, because their septic tanks you do have, they're pumping essentially a concentrate of what a sewer system would have, whereas a sewer system, you're receiving your water and your sewage and your gray water. You're not receiving that with a septic pump out. So come August, you do receive a lot more of the pump outs coming in and directly pumping into the lagoon systems is why you receive that. To mitigate that, and we've seen that in your capital projects for this year, you do see that there is an increase of replacement capital programs for some of the pumps and the aeration equipment. And with a more efficient aeration equipment, you're going to have more oxygen within that system. And hopefully you'll see a decrease in your BODs.
Okay, thank you. I learn more about sewage every year.
All right. Yeah, Rob,
I just bring this up every year because I'm happy to see it that it's only at 24% capacity.
yeah.
And there's always that misconception out there that it's overflowing the banks and polluting this, and it isn't. It's working the way it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think overall, there's no concerns with the way the system's functioning. So. All right. Any further comments on that? Call a vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried. Fire Chief's report. This is just some clarification, or I'm going to have Jack explain a little bit of this when we move in second, I guess, Todd and Amon. And Jack, yeah, just give us a brief overview of what you're accomplishing here with this.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The wording that's within this report helps clarify when family fireworks can be discharged here in Northern Bruce Peninsula. So this wording allows for the Saturday of a long weekend, or if there's a weather event, for fireworks to be discharged on the following Sunday, or Canada Day, or New Year's Day, or the next day if inclement weather affects the family fireworks displays. So this wording helps further clarify to permit holders when family fireworks can be discharged.
Okay, and who determines the inclement weather? Is it the family or?
Yeah, the family based on rain, wind, and provisions within the bylaw.
Okay, right.
Just want to congratulate Jack in the spirit of international cooperation that he included July the 4th.
Noted. Yeah. Sometimes there's not a lot of that today, but anyway. Okay, any further questions on that? Call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried. And item G on the agenda, and these are quotations from for the lines of Pecuniary Airport and Lions Head Marina, and it's the replacement of the fuel pumps.
Wow.
Hoover and seconder for that one. Smokey. Todd. Any comments on that, Mark?
No, just other than there's very limited vendors available within the province to do this type of work. Most of them are associated with building new gas stations where each pump is $80,000 or more. Smaller projects like we have, there's very few vendors interested or available or can take the time to do it. It was a bit of an effort to get the quotes we did get. I believe the one that we're recommending is competitive and is reasonable to the pump service that we need for our facilities. So,
All right, we're recommending approval of Raymar.
Just a question, Bill.
Sorry.
On the Tobermory Airport, we won't have a card lock system, but you're sort of planning for the potential to have one. Is that what I read?
yes, a potential card lock system is in the range of $50,000. So considering our budget at this time, I didn't feel that it warrants right away. If we decide to add it on at a future budget year, we can. So.
Is it more expensive to add it on?
No.
No, it isn't.
No.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? Call a vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Next is the Parks and Facilities Manager again, item H. And this is for heat pumps at the Pecuniary Community Center and the administration building here. And in the report, it says it's Cross Mechanical. So that's just a small typo there. We're in seconder to bring this forward, Damon and Todd. Any questions on this one? Or any comments on this one, Mark?
Just a couple of clarifications between the two facilities. So Tobermory, we only have electric baseboard heat, which is difficult in heating the facility in terms of there's no air movement. Whereas a heat pump system with various heads and vents will help circulate air and be more efficient in terms of heating the main hall facility. Here in this facility, we have 3 current air conditioners, 1 for each furnace unit. They're all at end of life. They have R22 refrigerant, which you can no longer get per se. And the opportunity to reduce our emissions through heating with propane furnace. So more greenhouse gas friendly and more potentially efficient, energy efficient heating of our facility here.
Above and beyond this cost here, though, is the electrical you're saying, and
There is a small electrical cost as part of the installation that wasn't provided with the Cross quote, but in terms of speaking with the electricians and one of the other quotations is submitted, the electrical work is in the range of $3,000 to $4,000.
okay. All right. Any further questions? Vote all in favor? Opposed, the motion is carried. Item I is the Rotary Hall and Spruce to Bruce funded projects, and the council authorizes staff to proceed with items 1, 2, and 4. Upgrades and report back on the costing for a concrete patio / ramp for the front entrance of the Rotary Hall building is obtained. Mover and seconder for that. Smokey. Rod. Okay, so any comments on this one, Mark?
I believe the report is fairly self-explanatory in that through the initial budget process and budget amount, and as we were at the same time getting quotations and applying to Spruce to Bruce, it's come, to our realization that the patio work portion of the project is more than what we initially forecasted, and there's been some change in the timing of the original plan. The original plan was to do that work in combination with the sidewalk work.
in Lion's Head that was not able to be realized or aligned at that time. And so that portion of the sidewalk was left unfinished in front of Rotary Hall, as we didn't want to damage the new sidewalk by eventually doing the patio work. So we need to update the quote anyways to include the sidewalk work now as well.
So it's above and beyond the 24.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. All right. Yes, Smokey.
Well, prior to even the last term of council, there was, strong consideration for, significant, should be done on the Rotary Hall. In fact, that's the property next to the Rotary Hall was purchased. And I just wonder if this means that are we totally shelving that? Because, we don't want to be seen any more than we can of putting money into this project and then going, another way. So I guess what I'm seeing here is these are things that really need to be done. And even if like there is an addition or whatever in the future, this work will not be lost. And I'm sorry, Mark, because you weren't here when that whole situation was, but the original building was going to stay there anyway, right? So
I can add that I did take the time to research the old files and the old designs and proposals that council of the day had considered. So I don't believe any of the work that we've done last year or doing this year would impact our ability to do a small build onto the facility in the future to improve washrooms or storage. And I think the Rotary Club and everybody involved in the works to date fully understand that. And this approach that we've taken the last 2 years is to make those improvements that are needed to keep the hall viable, as well as improve it and improve its availability for bookings and use for the community. So,
thank you. It seems to be well used.
All right. Any further questions? We'll call a vote on that. All in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried. Next is the treasurer's report, and we provide an incentive if we get a new doctor, and we're very fortunate to attract a new doctor, Dr. Claire Bodkin. And so this is just authorizing the payment for that. Mover and seconder for that. Amon and Rod. Any further questions? Call a vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. CAO report. And this is a report that to engage the services of RSM building consultants to provide interim chief building official services, plans, examination, and inspection services. And we've used this firm in the past for intermittently and find it necessary to do it again now. Mover and seconder for this, Amon and Smokey. Questions? Peggy, any comments?
Once we finalize agreements, we will make an announcement on the offers and things like that. But right now we're waiting on some paperwork to be filed. Some would be essentially assisting us with CBO work, either virtually or in person. And also we will be sending out a contact through our Contractors Corner newsletter to the contractors regarding the next steps.
Amon?
Just curious how long we expect this agreement to last, or if we have a date set, or is it just until we hire?
Probably until March.
All right. Further questions? Call a vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Item L, CO report again, and it's the line set shuttle agreement. And this is with Golden Dawn from June 27th until September 1st, 2025. So this is the same firm we've had the last 4 years. 4 years, yeah. Mover seconder for that, and this provides the shuttle service to the McCurdy parking lot in Lions Head. Mover and seconder for that one, Todd and Rod. Any questions on the report? Rod?
Just an observation. I didn't realize 12,700 riders. That's pretty impressive.
I think it's actually going to be down a bit from previous years, I believe. Was it Peggy? Yeah.
It is down a little bit. However, that doesn't include the walk-on, walk-offs that we have. So they actually go from McCurdy all the way down to the marina and then to around the town. And we do have some people actually pick up and drop off also.
Yeah. It's made a big difference on Moore Street. No further questions? Call a vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried. And CAO report again. It's the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program, Health and Safety Stream. And this is what we're planning on submitting to this stream. So, it's for the construction of a sanitary sewer main along Highway 6 to the Tobermory Lagoon system. And Peggy, maybe you can give us a little update on this just to clarify for me where it is.
So currently right now, we are still in negotiations with the MTO regarding constructability of the project itself. So how we are to construct how we construct the main itself. The project includes 13 gravity sewers, 3 pressure sewers, and 2 sanitary sewer extensions. It will improve the quality of the flow to the lagoon system, hence the BOD discussions that we had at the prior reports. It's also going to assist us in Tobermory is actually one of the wellhead protected zones that we have for source water drinking, and having an enclosed system instead of having people rely so much on septic systems is going to protect that wellhead a little bit better. So essentially, this is the first step in the process. Once we apply and things are closed, we will hear if we go on to the next step. Construction is supposed to start in 2026, and we're in pretty good shape to have that happen.
Mover, I'll just get a mover in a second to bring that forward. Rod and Amon. Yeah, go ahead, Rod.
Just the numbers again, Peggy, on force main and gravity and yeah.
So overall, it is 13 gravity sanitary sewers. So those are the connections, 3 pressure services and 2 sanitary sewer extensions. This will also feed some of the development zones off of Highway 6. So the potential for development to improve, hence a little bit more smaller homes potentially, could be due to this.
And it is a complete replacement of the existing force main from town or from the top of the hill all the way, or have they? It
will actually be from the corner of the apartment buildings and the community complex.
Yeah.
Yes, Smokey.
And we'll get figures on this as we go ahead.
Because this file has been actually ongoing since 2017, we're currently upgrading those numbers for you.
Oh, they'll
Great. However, it is nice to receive, if we were successful to receive that much of a reduction in the cost of the full project.
Okay, any further questions, comments on that? Call a vote, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. We are now at other business. Does anyone have other business? If not, we'll go to correspondence. Item number 1 on the agenda, it's a formal response to the May 12th, 2025 approval of draft bylaw number 2025. Anybody have any questions or comments on this one? Moving along, we'll go to the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority meeting minutes of March the 26th. And the Grey Bears Public Health Unit, the anniversary is 25th anniversary of the Walker Nicoli outbreak. Item number D is Julie Bennett, and that's the Crane Lake Road. Anyone has any comments on this, just stop me. And item number E is the multi-municipal energy working group. Minutes for March 13th. Next is the Terry Fox Foundation, the National Ride for Hope. And on June 28th, they passed through our municipality. And number G is the Friends of the Lions Head Library. And direction on this is their annual used book sale that they hold. Wait, support. Moved by Rod, second. Moved by Rod, second by Amon. We waive the fees for that event. And I guess we typically try to get this in during our process, but we always seem to have the odd one that, and I think we normally do support this. So we'll call a vote on that one, and all in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. And then we will go back. A to F would be information. Mover and seconder for that. Smokey and Todd. Any questions on call a vote? All in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried. Next we'll go to bylaws. It is the Blue Bay 2 Front Street. And that's the actual bylaw. And the next one is 35 Simpson, Green Acres, better known as. And the 2025-50 is the agreement we have with Dr. Claire Buck. And confirmatory bylaw is number 2025-52. Mover and second for bylaws. Mon, Rod. Any comments or questions on the bylaws? Call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Closed session. We have no closed session today, and a motion to adjourn. Todd, Smokey. Call all in favor?